In July 2018, Ethan and Laura Pierce flew down to Miami, Florida for their honeymoon. They checked into a luxury suite at the Ocean Crest Resort, a tall, glass-walled hotel overlooking the beach. As soon as they entered their suite, Laura wrinkled her nose. "Do you smell that?" she asked. There was an awful, sour stench, like rotting garbage or something decaying. Ethan called the front desk and asked to speak with the manager. He explained that the room smelled terrible and asked if they could switch to another suite. The manager, Mr. Alvarez, apologized and said every room was fully booked for the International Boat Show that weekend. He offered them a complimentary lunch at the resort's rooftop restaurant and promised to send a maid to clean the suite in the meantime. After their meal, Ethan and Laura returned, hoping the smell was gone. But as soon as they opened the door, the same nauseating odor hit them again. Stronger this time. Ethan called down to the desk once more, irritated. Mr. Alvarez apologized again and said he'd personally supervise another deep cleaning. With nothing else to do, the couple decided to walk along South Beach for a few hours while the staff worked. When they came back later that evening, the room looked spotless. New linens, fresh towels, even the curtains had been replaced. But the smell still lingered. Frustrated and convinced something was being overlooked, Ethan decided to find the source himself. He tore through the suite, checking every corner, behind the dresser, under the sink, even inside the vents. Finally, he yanked the mattress off the bed's box spring. What he saw froze him where he stood. Stuffed inside the base of the bed, wrapped in a stained sheet, was the body of a woman, already decomposing. Laura screamed and ran from the room while Ethan stood in a stunned silence, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. Moments later, hotel staff and police flooded the suite. The authorities later confirmed that the woman had been reported missing 3 days earlier, last seen leaving the same hotel. Ethan and Laura's honeymoon ended that night, and the Ocean Crest Resort quietly removed the suite from its listings the next morning. In September 2021, Daniel and Sofia Morales flew to Barcelona, Spain for their long-awaited honeymoon. The late summer air was warm, and their hotel overlooked the bustling Barceloneta beach, where they planned to spend most of their days relaxing. On their second afternoon, Sofia went to use the public restroom near the beach cafe. When she returned, her face was pale. "What's wrong?" Daniel asked. "There was a man just watching me," she said quietly. "He stood right outside the restroom. When I tried to walk past, he blocked the doorway. I only got out because a couple came in behind me." Daniel immediately looked around, but the man was gone. Uneasy, they cut their beach day short and walked back to the Marina Azul Hotel, just a few blocks away. On their way, they told a local police officer patrolling the promenade about the man. The officer assured them he'd keep an eye out and took a brief description. That evening, they dressed up and went to a waterfront restaurant for dinner. The lights of the city reflected off the sea, and for a while they managed to forget the encounter. By the time they returned to their hotel around midnight, they were exhausted. Just as Daniel was about to turn off the lights, there was a knock at the door. He peered through the peephole and saw a man in a hotel staff uniform, the white shirt and dark vest of housekeeping. When Daniel opened the door a few inches, the man immediately tried to push his way inside. "Excuse me," Daniel snapped, forcing the door back against him. The man said in accented English, "I left something in this room earlier when I cleaned." "I need to get it." Daniel froze. "That's impossible," he said. "We had the Do Not Disturb sign up all day." As Daniel spoke, he noticed the stranger's gaze shift toward Sofia. Her eyes went wide. She whispered, "That's him. That's the man from the beach." Before Daniel could react, the man lunged forward, one hand clamping around Daniel's throat, the other reaching behind his back. A glint of metal flashed. A knife. Daniel struggled, his back hitting the wall. Just as the man swung the blade, Sofia grabbed a ceramic lamp from the bedside table and smashed it across his face. The man staggered, fell, and Daniel kicked the knife out of reach. The noise drew guests into the hallway, and someone screamed for help. Within minutes, hotel security and the Mossos d'Esquadra, local police, arrived and arrested the attacker. Investigators later learned the man had been posing as hotel staff to target women tourists. Daniel and Sofia left Barcelona the next day, their dream honeymoon replaced with trauma and relief that they were still alive. In May 2019, Michael and Rachel Turner were driving with their 2 kids from Denver, Colorado to Orlando, Florida for a family trip to Disney World. By the time they reached Eastern Texas, it was already past 11 p.m. Rachel and the kids were asleep while Michael focused on the quiet highway ahead. There were almost no other cars in sight, just endless stretches of dark road and the faint hum of the tires on asphalt. Then up ahead, Michael noticed 2 flashing red lights on the road. They weren't police lights, more like portable SOS beacons. As he got closer, his stomach tightened. A dark sedan was parked sideways across both lanes, cones set up around it, blocking traffic. 2 men wearing hooded sweatshirts stepped out from behind the car and started walking toward him. Michael slowed down but didn't stop. Something felt wrong. He rolled his window down, just a crack. One of the men stepped closer and said, "We need help." "Open the door." The tone was off, sharp, commanding. Michael's instincts kicked in. He rolled the window back up and threw the car into reverse. The man reached into his pocket. Michael didn't wait to see what for. He slammed the gear into drive and gunned the engine, swerving around the cones and clipping one of the SOS lights as he sped off. In his rearview mirror, he saw the 2 men run back to their car, and moments later headlights appeared, chasing him down the highway. Rachel woke up to the sound of tires screeching. "What's happening?" she shouted. "Don't scream," Michael said through gritted teeth. "Someone's following us." The car behind them flashed its high beams. Then, bang! A loud pop echoed. The vehicle jolted violently. One of the rear tires had blown out. Another pop followed. Michael fought to keep control as the car dragged and fishtailed. "Call 911!" he yelled. Rachel fumbled for her phone, sobbing as she gave their location. The kids cried in the back seat. Just as the chase seemed hopeless, red and blue police lights appeared behind them, closing fast. The pursuing car swerved off an exit, and 2 patrol cruisers followed. When officers reached Michael's stopped vehicle, they found both back tires shredded, shot out just as he'd suspected. An hour later, police confirmed they had caught the suspects, who had been setting up fake roadblocks to ambush passing drivers. The Turners spent the night in a motel under police supervision, shaken but alive. The car in the cane fields. In August 2017, Claire Jennings and her fiancé, Ryan, were on vacation in Jamaica, exploring the countryside outside Montego Bay. They'd rented a small car to visit hidden beaches and scenic routes away from the tourist areas. One afternoon, they were driving down a narrow back road that cut through tall sugar-cane fields, far from any towns. It was quiet, eerily quiet. After about 10 minutes of driving, Claire spotted something odd, the back half of a blue car sticking out from the cane. "Looks like someone crashed," she said. Ryan slowed down and pulled to the shoulder. "Stay here," he told her, stepping out. Claire watched as he walked up to the wreck. The car was covered in dust and rusted around the edges, like it had been there for days. Ryan peered through the windows, then crouched to look under the bumper. He suddenly jumped back, stumbling. "What is it?" Claire called out, getting out of the car despite his protests. When she got close enough to see what he'd seen, she froze. Underneath the wrecked vehicle were 2 men, lying flat on the ground, each holding large knives, and between them was a body, limp and covered in blood. As soon as the men realized they'd been spotted, they started to crawl out. Ryan grabbed Claire by the arm, practically dragging her back to their rental. They jumped in, slammed the doors, and sped down the road as fast as the small car could handle. They didn't stop until they reached a gas station half an hour later. Shaking, they told a local worker what they had seen. The police were called, and when they arrived at the scene later, the car and the men were gone. Claire and Ryan flew home the next day. Claire never spoke about that trip again, and even years later, she refused to drive down rural roads. In summer 2022, Lily Anderson, age 17, boarded a Mediterranean cruise with her family, her parents, older brother Jack, her sister and cousins. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, 10 days visiting ports in Italy, Greece, and Croatia. On the third night, Lily and Jack sneaked into the ship's nightclub using borrowed wristbands. The place was packed, music blaring, lights flashing. But even through the chaos, Lily noticed an older man sitting alone in the corner, staring straight at her. Wherever she moved, his eyes followed. She got an uneasy feeling and left the club. She found Jack later at the bar and told him she wasn't feeling well. As they talked, she noticed the same man again, now sitting across the lounge, still watching. Lily brushed it off, returned to her cabin, and locked the door. She didn't tell anyone what had happened. The next night after dinner, she came back to the room alone around 1 a.m. The hallway was empty and silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. When she reached her cabin, she noticed the door was cracked open, light spilling through. Her stomach dropped. She slowly pushed the door open. No one was inside. The room looked untouched, so she convinced herself she had just forgotten to close it. She locked the door and went to bed. Sometime later, she woke up in the dark to the feeling of a hand brushing across her cheek. Half asleep, she mumbled, "Jack, stop." But when her eyes adjusted, she saw a tall figure standing beside her bed, and Jack's bed across the room was empty. Lily screamed. The man from the nightclub was right there. Jack burst in seconds later, grabbed the stranger, and tackled him to the floor. Lily's parents arrived moments after, and security was called. The man was taken to the ship's holding cell, where he remained until they docked in Athens the next day. Authorities later confirmed he had a record of stalking incidents on previous cruises. The Anderson family ended their vacation early. Lily hasn't been on a ship since, and probably never will again.